It's that time of year. Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving has just passed. We're feeling a little bit busier, right? We got a lot going on. We have a lot of things we want to do. And sometimes it's hard to fit in all the things that we need to do, want to do, and should do to live an optimal life. So, this week's episode, guys, we're talking about some top tips on how to optimize your health in a time crunch. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. My name is Courtney Condon, occupational therapist.
I'm Jon Wilson, doctor of physical therapy.
And this week on the Holistic Travel Therapy podcast, we're going to be talking about what to do on a time crunch. So, this was suggested by one of our listeners. They wanted some more tips on ways to incorporate exercise, nutritious meals, and meditation during this busy time of year. And I know a lot of our listeners are parents and they have kids or they work full time and they're trying to incorporate these things. And I think that that's the number one excuse as to why individuals don't start, whether an exercise program or healthy eating or meditation. It's, I don't have time.
Yeah, the amount of patients that I've had who'd say, well, I just don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to work out. I got, like I got this and I got that. And it's crazy to me, first of all, because you should always be putting your health first, right?
Right.
So work should not come first. Obviously, your health, your family's health, your friends' health, stuff like that should definitely come first. And then work, money, materialistic things should be on the back end. So whenever I hear that, you don't have time or for this and for that, these are some great tips to kind of kill that narrative of you don't have time and give you that the tips and the energy to make time for yourself.
Right, exactly. And during some of this research, John, I found out that actually by incorporating the things that we're going to talk about today, you might have even a better chance of reducing your risk of all cause mortality. And incorporating these simple, easy things is like so much better than we could have thought. So, we're going to break it down into exercises and then food and then meditation. So, first, talking about exercise, what to do on a time crunch. I think the easiest, and some people might like already know this, and it's just kind of one of those things that sometimes it's harder to incorporate, is just find more ways to get in your daily activity through the everyday things you do. We have one thing that's called, like our total daily energy expenditure. And that is when we're not working out, what caloric, equivalent our body is burning in just the everyday things we do. So, for example, if you know that Sunday is your grocery shopping day, when you go to the store, instead of, circling around the parking lot trying to find the closest spot, so you're just kind of like, oh, this is going to save me time. I'm going to run in, you know, park further back. I think it's going to be quicker. You're going to park quicker. And then you're getting in all those extra steps by walking the length of the parking lot. So something like that, parking further. Sometimes maybe if you can avoid driving altogether. I know it's definitely hard. I mean, we live in an area that you kind of have to drive places. But when we lived in Medina, Ohio, there was a grocery store like right down the street. And it wasn't, my favorite grocery store, but the days that I was like, okay, I have to go there for a few things, I would just walk and I would bring my reusable bags and I would make sure that I didn't buy enough. It also helped with my spending because I was like, I can't buy so much that I can't walk with it back. Um, so doing things like that or trying to, hey, we're going to meet up for somewhere. Could you bike instead of drive? Could you park further back and walk? I think, we've been doing that a little
Yeah.
bit more.
And luckily, I'm not a big elevator guy, so taking the stairs has always been something that I try to do. Obviously, there's different assisted living facilities where I do have to go up to the seventh, eighth, ninth floor. So in those scenarios, I usually do take the elevator. However, recently the elevator is down in the one assisted living facility, so I do take the stairs up to the seventh or eighth floor. So once I get up there, I'm definitely a little bit out of breath. But trying to take the stairs as much as possible. I think nowadays just getting on an elevator, you just see it all the time, especially if it's just a few floors. If it's a couple floors, you should not be getting on the elevator. You should take the stairs if you're able to. Just finding different ways to, if you do stairs throughout the day, stairs are just an uh,
Yeah.
amazing exercise to do.
Cardiovascular benefits, muscular benefits. There's so many different ways to reap benefits from something simple that you almost kind of have to do. You have to get up to that next floor. Um, and if maybe you don't feel comfortable or maybe taking the stairs up is too much of a challenge, start by taking the stairs down, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And then maybe you incorporate one floor up. And then if you feel like you can do that, then you incorporate two floors up
Yeah.
and you're just kind of building upon it. But those are ways without even necessarily increasing your exercise. You are incorporating more movement into every day. Then the other one that, again, I think it's kind of simple, but sometimes we forget to implement it is, so what are you doing afterward? Okay, maybe you don't have to do a formal exercise, but could you, find a way to incorporate the family into a higher level activity? Could you all go for a walk? Could you all go outside and play sports? Could you just play? If you have kids, instead of maybe, you know, being an observer in whatever they're doing, can you incorporate yourself into whatever they're doing? And then you're having to get down on the ground and stand up and reach and jump and run. And you don't realize that all those things are beneficial for your body.
Hmm.
And incorporating those helps to kind of keep you childlike
Yeah.
and having more of those movement patterns that kids do and that energy that kids do. I think that's what, at the end of the day, we're all trying to maintain throughout our whole life.
Yeah, so there was actually a study done, I want to say like 5, 10 years ago, and they actually found that getting on and off the ground is the number one or two biggest indicator, along with gait speed, so your walking speed, of mortality rates. So if you're able to get on and off the ground easily, you have a much lower risk of mortality than those. So as you get older, obviously when you're 30, 40, 50, you're not really thinking about getting on and off the ground. You can just do it. But once you start getting older, it's definitely something that is not easy to do. I
Right,
mean, we
right.
deal with people who basically all of our patients can't really get on and off the ground.
Yeah.
So it's like Courtney said, it's great to practice, getting on and off the ground. If you're watching TV or if you have kids or if you don't have kids, later at night, I definitely fall into this sometimes of just like, all right, I'm going to watch this game, so I'm just going to lay on the couch for 2 to 3 hours. Stretch a little bit. You can do a little
Yeah,
stretching,
exactly.
do a little yoga if you want. If you don't want to go that far, just get on the ground and do some hamstring stretching. Everybody knows the hamstring. you know, Lay on your stomach for a little bit, do a little cobra, get that spine moving, do a little cat cow. I mean, you see me, I'm always stretching my spine because back pain is the number one thing that I see in the clinic. So by stretching your spine and keeping your muscles, loose but also strong, you're going to have a much higher outcome as far as less pain down the road.
Right, exactly. So I think incorporating it, like John said, in something that you're probably going to do in the evening. You're probably going to watch TV in some fashion. And can you just spend maybe just 5 minutes? If you're going to watch an hour-long TV show or a 30-minute TV show, can you spend just 5 minutes incorporating some type of movement in?
Yeah. And again, with like taking a phone call or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, even if you're on lunch or if you're taking a work call or something, you can go for a walk or like we talked about before, instead of meeting a friend for a drink, meeting a friend for a walk or, having a
Yeah,
coffee and then
exactly.
going for a walk or going to the park or something. I mean, there's so many different ways to incorporate movement. And I think as a society, I mean, we definitely are super far behind it. But if you're listening to this, you're already a step ahead of
Exactly.
90% of the population nowadays. So that's good.
Right. And then I think there's a big kind of like upcoming trend of these exercise snacks. So maybe you're like, okay, I'm doing all that stuff, but I want to know, like, I have 10 minutes. What can I do? I think that the best thing to do is just do some body weight exercises. If you are trying to incorporate just a little bit more movement into your everyday routine, if you have 10 minutes, you can do 5 different body weight exercises for 2 minutes each, and then you're getting in a little bit of that extra benefit of what you can do. Some people I feel like think, okay, well, if I'm not like running or I'm not lifting or I'm not like sweating, I'm not adding benefit to, my body, but that's not necessarily the case. And I think we're finding that out more and more throughout research that even if you have just 10 minutes, if you can't get in that 30-minute workout, if you can get in 3 10-minute little bits of workout, it is just as effective, if not more effective. So, according to a study published by the National Health Institute in 2019, individuals were assessed whether they completed accumulated duration or a single bout of exercise duration, and it found that there was almost exact patterns of fitness in terms of blood pressure, lipid, insulin, and glucose levels. And it found that those who did the accumulated duration of exercise had even more benefits in terms of body mass index and LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol. So there was more benefit for those who worked out those 3 10-minute durations over the day versus one 30-minute duration. So that was really cool for me to find out, because I'm someone who's always been like, I got to get in. I got to get my hour workout.
If you don't go to the gym and spend an hour there, you're not really getting a good workout. And there's been so many days where I don't make it to the gym, and whether we're busy doing something, and I still feel like I was able to get a workout in that day by the amount of stairs or just, spending that time. Whether, you have 10 minutes going on the ground and doing some core exercises, you can do some higher level things just with your body weight. So.
Right. And I think that's like one thing that even I'm learning a little bit more. It's like, okay, body weight exercises. Yeah, you might feel like 10 body weight squats is easy and you could do that, but like, what about 50 body weight squats? Same thing with like glute bridges. You're laying on your back, you're lifting your hips. 10 might seem like a piece of cake, but could you do 100 of them without feeling some type of muscle activation? And if it's like Ben, it's like, can you do a single leg squat all the way down on one leg, all the way back up? Probably not. But the more regular body weight squats you do, like you could build up to something like that, which is a body weight exercise that many people can't do.
Yeah. I mean, I ask all my younger patients, how long can you hold a plank? And I feel like 90% of them just kind of laugh and they're like, I haven't done a plank in years. So I feel like planking is another amazing thing because it's that isometric hold of that core and your entire spine and getting those muscles around your spine stronger. So trying to hold a plank for 30, 45 seconds is another thing that you can do. You do a couple of them and you already got a great core workout. So it's really good.
Right. So simple things, body weight squats, push-ups, planks, any variation of a, sit up or crunch that works best for you and your body. I know sometimes they can cause more back pain. So just kind of being mindful of those things. We think also like wall sits, right? You could walk or jog in place, march in place, so many different things. And we can again kind of put a list of exercises together and leave it in the show notes. So you might have a few ideas. Maybe it's like, oh, I never thought of it like that. Or maybe you're doing some of those basic exercises and you want to incorporate more. Like if you take your kids to the park, can you go on the monkey bars and do a few pull-ups, right? Kind of where can you sneak in some of these different types of exercise?
But Courtney, I want to know about nutrition. What can I eat? If I don't have time, I can just run to the fast food, grab something quick at the gas station or something, right? If I don't have time, I can just eat it while I'm driving and be fine.
No, not necessarily. So what we're going to break into next is how to, manage food, make healthy meals when we're on a time crunch. I think that the first and foremost thing is, as Jon kind of alluded to, that stopping and getting fast food, sometimes may seem easier, quicker, but we also want to be mindful of like what we're putting into our body and how that may affect how we feel and our energy levels. So it might seem quicker, but it might drain your energy levels. And therefore, you can't participate in all the things that you want to and need to do for the rest of the day. So when it comes to optimizing your kitchen environment, could you think about spending a little bit more money? I'll preface by saying that on some pre-cut vegetables. You can get pre-cut broccoli, pre-cut mushrooms. You can get like pre-cut potatoes or things like that and just have them ready sitting for you in the fridge. So when it is time to make dinner, instead of kind of doing a whole like, oh, I have to take out the whole head of broccoli, I have to cut it up how I want. You just grab the bag, you shake it onto a pan, you put it in the oven, and from there
Yeah.
it's on its own.
Yeah. And I think meal prepping is so important. That's definitely something that I've gotten better at. And I know Courtney over here is amazing at it. But just meal prepping, I mean, we've been making egg bites, Courtney's famous egg bites in the morning, and I have them for the week, for breakfast. And that's big for me because, to be honest, for a long time, like I was either just not eating breakfast, and then by the time lunch came around, like I was just drained and my stomach was kind of hurting and it just didn't feel great. Or I would get like Dunkin' Donuts, croissant sandwich or something, or if I was really hungry that day, and just having something, even if I don't, um, yeah, I think
Sorry.
it's staticking. Even if I don't eat them, right away, just having them like for later, like a early lunch or something is big, and you really want to get protein first, right? So in the
Right,
morning,
exactly.
you want to get in some protein, some eggs, something like that, and that's something that I've noticed. Protein first, you're going to be fuller, and then you're going to have more energy throughout the day, and that's been shown in multiple studies. So instead of having cereal or oatmeal or something like that in the morning, especially like a bagel or something like that. Like you
Right.
want to try to
Heavy
get some
carbs.
eggs in, you want to try to get some protein first, and then you can have some carbs after that.
Exactly. So something, as John said, like when I make egg muffins, it can be as simple or as elaborate as you want to make it. When I was in school and I had a little bit less time than I have now, I would use, you know, egg beaters. And I know that they're maybe not like the best benefit wise compared to eggs, but I'd have to say that it's better than getting a croissant sandwich from Dunkin',
I don't know,
So
those are pretty good.
so just having some of those pre-cut vegetables that I talked about, having some egg beaters, having some pre-shredded cheese. You just mix it all together, put it into, I prefer muffin tins, but you could also do like a sheet and bake that. And then you have breakfast for the week. And you don't have to think about, doing this or doing that. And it's easy for the whole family. If some John likes to grab them and go, if he has time, he might make them into a sandwich. There's been times before where we've mashed them up and had them like scrambled eggs, so maybe that your kids only eat scrambled eggs and you can kind of make these and then make them seem like scrambled eggs. So saves you a little bit of time in the morning, gives you a lot more benefits, gives you that protein, like John said.
Yeah, and then as far as like snacks go, um, basically if it has a label with more than 5 ingredients, it's probably not a good snack. Um, Definitely want to look at the ingredients. Obviously, the sugar, high fructose corn syrup, stuff like that. So as far as like good healthy snacks, like some walnuts, obviously fruit is good. Some apples, or just having some fruit nearby or something. Just kind of packing it, taking it to work or wherever you're going to be. In a cooler or putting it in a fridge. As far as snacking, I mean, obviously you don't want any little debbies or anything like that. You want to try to stay the lower the ingredients, the better. We do like perfect bars. They're a little bit high in sugar, but you're getting honey and peanut butter, and you're getting it from higher quality sources than sugar that you're going to get from high fructose corn syrup, where it's that ultra processed sugar where it's been processed so many different times that our body really has no idea how to break it down.
Right, exactly. And going off of, getting in those fresh fruits and things like that, sometimes if you're like, I buy fruit and my kids don't eat it, or, and then we end up throwing it away, what we've kind of incorporated a little bit more is getting some frozen fruits, and you can even get frozen vegetables that are just there. in the freezer. So you don't necessarily have to worry about, getting something and it going bad. Even, like pre-cut frozen vegetables are already pre-cut. So you just have them there. You can either pour a little bit and defrost them, or you can, use the whole bag per se. But we've been keeping frozen organic blueberries in the freezer. And if you want more of like that fresh blueberry consistency, you can let them sit out a little bit. You can put them into smoothies. We put them on top of yogurt or chia seed pudding, oatmeal, things like that, and they're there, and we don't have to worry about necessarily like if we eat them all or if they're going to go bad because we just have them in the freezer. So
Yeah,
if
and we've done research on that because I was
yeah,
kind of like, well, frozen aren't as good as the fresh. You're not getting the same nutrients. Your body's not breaking it down the same. And we've done some research, and the studies actually say that it is pretty similar.
yeah, if not better than fresh produce, because usually when frozen produce is like frozen, it's picked, it's freeze dried, it's put in packaging, and so it almost gets all of the benefit from being freshly picked versus some of the fresh produce, they pick it, they package it, they put it on a ship, they send it to California, Florida, wherever. And every day that it is not being eaten fresh from picking, it loses some of its benefits. So there can actually be more benefits to eating frozen vegetables than fresh vegetables, fruits and vegetables. So, and then I think the other thing that I wanted to talk about is it's like, okay, but X, Y, and Z. One thing that we have definitely incorporated more is a crock pot. So if you don't necessarily have a crock pot or an air fryer, some of these new trendy things that kind of help make cooking a little bit easier, it might be something to look into. I think some of the recipes that I'm going to post below, so you guys have a little idea of like, okay, this is something simple that I can do that I'm not really having to do a lot of work, is like fajita chicken in the crock pot. So essentially, you just take your chicken, you put it at the bottom of the crock pot, you put in your spices, you put in your chopped onions, chopped peppers, you let it sit for 4 to 6 hours. You might have to do 10 to 15 minutes of prep work, but then it's cooking while you're doing whatever else you have to do, and like a slow cooker turkey chili. So you're putting all the ingredients in the slow cooker and you're just letting it sit and it's cooking itself and you don't have to worry about it. And sometimes, now that we're getting into some of that colder weather, you want some of these like warmer slow cooker foods. I'm sure you're not like, man, I really crave some turkey chili when it's 100 degrees outside in the middle of summer. But now that it's colder, these are simple things that you can incorporate to give yourself a little bit healthier food, but less pressure to make them when, you're on a time crunch.
Yeah, big turkey chili guy.
Well, like ground turkey, you know what I mean.
No, I know it sounds good.
Um, but I think another like thing on top of the pre-cut vegetables and things like that is like rotisserie chicken. You can get some better quality pre-cooked meats from the grocery store,
Organic.
or yeah, organic. We personally have started to stray away from deli meat. You can obviously get
Processed.
better quality deli meat, and I would have to say that getting, organic deli meat is probably better than getting a McDonald's hamburger. So choose your battles,
Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure the meat is grass fed. I don't know if you said that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Grass fed, chicken, free range, and as we talked about last week's episode, if you didn't watch it, you can go back and watch it. If you have that Yucca app or something like that while you're out there, you just scan it and it'll tell you kind of like if it's green, if it's, fair, like you don't really want it, or if it's bad.
Yeah.
So, just kind of being mindful of all those things. But I think the biggest thing is having just a few things prepped throughout the week, even if it's pre-cutting, X, Y, and Z, having it in the fridge. So then when you're ready to make dinner, you can just throw a few things on a pan, put it in the oven, and then it cooks while you're doing things. Another thing that I was going to talk about is sometimes canned fish. We like to have a can of tuna and the pantry. So if we just need to make a quick tuna fish sandwich, it's there, we make it, and I feel a lot more comfortable with doing something like that versus eating out or, taking a lot of time to like cook something for lunch.
Yeah.
So that's when it comes to food. The other thing I did want to say is that a study published in 2022 by Nature Medicine followed researchers from Australia who looked at over 25,000 participants who recorded that they didn't do any physical activity. They wore activity trackers and just kind of did everyday activities such as cooking, cleaning, ways to move your body. And it found that those that sustained a higher heart rate for 1 to 2 minutes a day, at least 5 to 6 days a week, had a 23% decreased risk of all cause mortality. So again, maybe it's like you need to incorporate some of these cooking, cleaning things around your house, maybe not removing them, maybe incorporating them so we can get some of those similar benefits as exercise and decrease our overall risk. So I think sometimes we think about how can we do less and more, but you also have to remember that by cooking, by doing some of these things around the kitchen, you are getting in that movement and you could be having benefits that you're not even aware of.
So I am working full time. I'm taking care of 2, 3 kids, and I'm exercising and I'm meal prepping. It sounds like a lot of work. So what can I do to kind of go from that sympathetic to parasympathetic, that rest and digest that we both know is so amazingly important?
Thank you for asking, Jon. I think that meditation has to be one of the most beneficial things that we can incorporate, even in small doses. When it comes to meditation, we are thinking about anything that is bringing us, a state of relaxation, a state of, going, as Jon said, from that from that sympathetic fight or flight to that parasympathetic rest and digest. And when we feel like we don't have time to meditate is the time to meditate because we are going, 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 and we're not allowing our body to get that good rest. So when we think about ways to incorporate simple meditations, the first one I'm going to talk about is breathing. Just kind of being by yourself for a few minutes. Maybe you set a timer on your watch, maybe you set a timer on your phone, and you really focus on just inhaling and exhaling through your nose or mouth. All you're doing is calming your mind and focusing on your breath.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with the breathing is breathing through your stomach instead of your chest. So you want to get that really deep breath in through your stomach. You want to expand your diaphragm. You want to try to hold it for, 4 to 8 seconds, and relax. And like Courtney said, this is very important. And as far as being on a time crunch, you can really do this anywhere, anytime. Even if you're driving, obviously you don't have to like close your eyes and do a full meditation. But if you're driving, if you're at work, if you're at your desk, if you're laying down, it really doesn't matter. You can focus on your breathing for a few minutes. I've done this in the car. I've done this if I'm feeling stressed at work or something like that. Just try to breathe through your stomach a little bit because I notice myself just kind of breathing through my chest a lot, and it's hard sometimes to think about it, but it is so important to focus on your breathing throughout the day. Obviously, not all day every day, but a few times throughout the day to kind of get back into that. Okay, I'm here, I'm focused, and I'm able to attack the day at the highest level possible.
Yes. So in coordination with breathing, we also want to think of relaxation of the body. So if you're listening to this right now, I probably want you to just relax your shoulders a little bit because it is so simple to get caught up in that tension. So we're thinking about that tension that we carry in the shoulders, the tension that we carry in the jaw or in the forehead. And that's another way to get in that simple meditation is just kind of go through every single part of your body, starting from the crown of your head all the way down to your feet and relax those muscles. So I find myself like doing things that I enjoy, cooking, cleaning, X, Y, and Z. And my shoulders I'm a little stressed. They're obviously not like super high, but like they're up. And by just giving myself that mental reminder to just relax my shoulders, maybe take some more diaphragmatic breath, to be present in what I'm doing and not thinking about all the other things that I have to do, I'm incorporating mindfulness into the tasks I'm already doing. As Jon mentioned, when you're driving, maybe you're stuck in traffic and you are like, this is the absolute last thing I want to do, be stuck in traffic. It's going to take me so much longer to get home. That is a perfect opportunity for you to incorporate some mindfulness. You don't have to do a full blown meditation, but while you're there, can you turn on some relaxing music? Can you do some of that diaphragmatic breathing? Can you relax the shoulders, relax the jaw, relax the forehead, all the way down to your toes? Relax the legs. If you're driving, you need to keep your feet active. So maybe stop at
Don't
the hips.
relax. Yeah, don't relax the legs too much now. Unless you're just at a,
A
complete red
complete
light,
stop.
you can chill for a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I think that's super important, and I think it's probably the hardest thing for me at least to do, especially on a time crunch, because like this episode is, based on time crunch, right? So you want to get stuff done. You want to do everything you possibly can to make the most of it, right? So if you get some time, you want to exercise or you want to do this and do that and finish the dishes and do the laundry and go, and I feel like for your health and for everyone's health out there, we need some time to just relax and do some deep breathing. A couple minutes before and after eating is another good one that I've incorporated to try to get down into that rest and digest state. Because if you're eating food in that sympathetic state, your body's not going to be able to digest it and use it as fuel like it should. Um, you're going to have, heartburn. A lot of people deal with heartburn and digestive issues because of that specific thing, because they're stressed while they're eating. So trying to relax and ease the mind before eating is extremely important.
And that's why saying grace is something that is very beneficial. It's something that as growing up, I was always like, oh my gosh, my parents, we still, we say a grace before every meal. We'd be out at a restaurant, Olive Gardens would bring the soup, salad, and breadsticks, and I'd be ready to dig in. And my parents would be like, let's say grace. And I'm like, oh, that is what's keeping me from my breadsticks, you know? But in doing research and in finding this stuff out, it allows your body to go from that heightened state and just kind of take a second for gratitude, for silence, few deep breaths, appreciate, what you have. It's an easy way to incorporate meditation 3 times a day, saying a small grace before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner. And then while you're eating that meal or after you eat that meal, talk as a family like, hey, what is something that you enjoyed today? What is something you're grateful for today? And I think an easy way to like incorporate it all, the 3 things that we've talked about today together, is get your family involved in these health affirming things. Simple thing. If you feel like, okay, well, I have to play with the kids and I want to eat a healthy meal and this, that, and the other, like, how can you get your kids involved in making a healthy meal? Having them decide, like, what they want to eat. If you're it's like tacos, maybe do they like chicken more than beef? And you can find better quality things that align better with what they like. And then they're helping. It's like you're not having to watch them, but you're also kind of keeping them in awareness of what they're putting in their body and what cooking and things like that are. And you're teaching them at a young age how to make meals and the importance of eating as a family. And then before that meal, you are saying grace and you're taking a few minutes throughout the meal to talk about what you're thankful for. It all comes together in something like that. And I believe the statistics out there are like children who eat with their families at least 3 meals a week get in like 3 to 5 fruits and vegetable servings compared to those who don't. And it's so simple, we often take it for granted that we get to spend that time with our family. And having that consistent rhythm of like, hey, if it's just 3 meals a week that you incorporate sitting down together and getting the family involved or your significant other involved in helping in the kitchen, that time that takes you to cook or prep or this is drastically cut down. So that's just something that kind of ties it all together, which I thought is important to bring up because it's a way to get everything, involved. I do just want to point out one other statistic on meditation. So, a 2015 study found that just 5 minutes of meditation, 7 days a week, reduced overall stress levels. It also increased mental clarity, resilience, memory recall, and overall quality of life in participants who completed that 5 minutes of meditation daily. So that's it. You get all these benefits. So reduced blood pressure, increased mental clarity, increased cognition, decreased stress just from completing 5 minutes of meditation. So can you set a 5-minute timer, relax, think about some of those things that you're grateful for. Just try not to think about all the things you have going on, and you are reaping the benefits of the mindfulness and the meditation. So, what is our challenge this week,
John? Our challenge is to pick one, if not two, of the three things that we talked about today and try to implement them into your life. So, just like Courtney said, you can do the 5 minute, 10 minutes, I think is definitely doable for a meditation a day. You can start meal prepping a little bit better, looking at different foods that we talked about today. Courtney will put the recipes for some of them in the show notes. You can check those out. Or you can start taking the stairs a little bit more, start incorporating some of the exercises that we talked about at the beginning of the episode. So try to pick one or two. If you're able to do all three, that's great. But obviously, you never want to go too hard, at the beginning. We want to kind of, build up with better habits and better habits and better habits to the point that we are all superhuman and we are all living healthy lives until we're 150.
Right. And find something that is easily incorporated into your lifestyle. Like maybe the stairs is something that you've been taking, but you maybe don't do it consistently, or, make these things habits, not necessarily something that you're going to implement short term. Make these things habits that you continue to implement time and time again. And before you know it, it's not even going to seem like something that you have to do. It's something that you just do. And making those small adjustments now, I mean, we got 2025 right around the corner. We said the holidays is here. I mean, I look at our calendar and I'm like, oh my goodness, we got so many fun things coming up. I need to be a little bit more mindful of when I'm going to get in X, Y, and Z. And having that set in my mind provides me a little bit more confidence and a level of comfort knowing that I can do all the things. So,
Yeah.
You are not alone if you feel like you're struggling with this. As Jon said, we struggle with it too sometimes, trying to fit everything in. But doing just simple things makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. We appreciate so much you suggesting what, you'd like to hear on the podcast, because at the end of the day, all this information is to help you guys. So, as Jon said, implement at least one or two of the things this week, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, next week we have an amazing episode coming up on sauna and cold plunges. We're going to dive back into those.
Yes.
Literally, we're going to
Literally
dive back in. We've been definitely incorporating this more and more with it being cold outside. So we're excited to kind of bring that to you. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. Have a great week.
Peace.